Okay, so I've been dealing with a client recently, and there's been some issues with serviceability of the loan. It's interesting because they can satisfy the LVR requirements, or loan to value ratio requirements that the lenders have, and they're actually got a loan that would probably be below 70% of the value of the property. And typically, the issues start to arise when that percentage becomes 80% or higher. So on that score, the client is able to finance quite acceptably. The issue has been is that they've had some complications due to a large unpaid tax debt, which they need to refinance. And so the number of lenders who would do this loan has been reduced from roughly about 35 lenders down to about 8 who actually will handle unpaid tax debts. Obviously, in this particular case, they're a self-employed person, so that is where the tax debt arose, because they haven't paid their BAS on time, as well as some income tax. So we have that situation where this must be paid out as part of any refinance. And in looking at that, that has reduced the number of lenders down from 35 odd down to about 8 lenders. Now, to complicate it even further, the property, which is the value of the security, is in what I call a tourist area of Victoria, and it's in terms of lenders speak, it's a Category 3 or Category 4 lending area. And what that means is that a lot of lenders will restrict the value of the loan that they will provide to a client in that situation, or they will offer a higher interest rate. So you've got all these complications that would need to be resolved. Now, they were looking to buy a block of land on top of this, so refinance, pay out the tax debt and buy a block of land, which they were going to construct a home on. And this is when the problem started to exacerbate a little bit further, because the serviceability of actually increasing the loan to pay for the block of land, let alone constructing a house, was proving difficult on their level of income. So they had a number of other things going on. For example, being self-employed, they had an expensive vehicle van that they had for their business, and this was making serviceability quite difficult. And so we were going from one situation to another as we tried to unravel all the various issues, and serviceability was proving quite difficult. And one of the options I said was, look, because of the tax debt, because of all these issues, you need to look at how much you have to pay back. And the amount they were paying back, when they looked at the amount that they would have to pay at these slightly higher interest rates, they suddenly realised that their own level of comfort was also at risk. And my view in this situation is, if the borrower is not comfortable with the available finance commitments, then it's up to the broker to say, look, are you sure that you want to go ahead with this, even if we can get it done? So the applicant in this particular case, my client, looked at it and thought, I'm not really 100% comfortable with this level of debt that I might have to repay. And we look forward to the servicing of that debt from the rental property if they did manage to get a loan for the construction of the residential investment property on the land. And it was all looking quite difficult. So I went back to him and said, in this particular case, look, let's look at the contract of sale of the land and just see what options you might have and what the financial risk might be to you if you didn't complete the contract. And at that particular point, we asked his conveyancer to let us know what the issues were, if any, that were written into the contract. Now, the conveyancer, unbeknownst to us, then flicked this request onto the vendor's conveyancer, who's a large property developer, rather than looking at the contract themselves. And the vendor's conveyancer also responded and said, look, we've never had someone request for these details on these issues. They said seek their own legal advice. So I put it back into our camp, and clearly our conveyancer wasn't comfortable reviewing the contract for the purpose of these clauses. And what this, in a long roundabout way, comes back to is that where you have a conveyancer in this situation, conveyancers can be very good at actually settling the exchange and settlement of a property. But when it involves giving actual advice on the terms of the contract, that's not something they're in a position to do. And in this particular case, everyone threw their hands up and it took it back to square one. And so I was then talking to my client and said, well, look, if you need the help of a good property lawyer who can advise you on the terms of the contract and actually go through the contract and find out what the financial risk to you is if you default, or if you ask for an extension of time or whatever else you might want to consider, let me know, and I can put you in contact with a good property lawyer who can deal with this for you. Now, that's something, if you think about all those different issues that I've gone through, that's the sort of thing that a broker can do. If you went into your high street bank, those options and alternatives probably wouldn't be put to you, because at the first instant, the bank would have said probably can't do the deal. And that would have been the end of it. So look, we may not get the right deal from the point of view of getting the loan, but it might be the right situation for the client because they're not going to be feeling exposed and uncomfortable. And if the client needs to get proper advice, we can make sure that they're put in contact with someone who can give them that proper advice so that they feel comfortable with the decision they're making. Okay, that's it for now. Talk to you soon. Cheers. Bye.